I'll show you a page. Should have made you come last. um, I wanted to talk. Paige kind of hit on it a little bit about the gifts. Dad himself was a gift, but he left us with a lot of gifts to continue on with. And I wanted to talk about some of those. I'm going to start with a literal gift that he actually gave me when I was 13 years old. I'm not going to say how many years long ago that was. Um, but when we were getting ready to move to Florida and I was about to turn 14, my dad came to the house with an Easter basket for me. And inside of that Easter basket was a pink and blue stuffed bear. And being almost 14, you would think, I wouldn't think that much of it. But when we moved to Florida, I had never been so far away from my dad for so long. So I slept with Cotton Candy. That's what I named her every single night. Cotton Candy went to college with me. Um, when I got married, my husband knew we had to make room for Cotton Candy. And I really only stopped sleeping with Cotton Candy when I had a daughter, Cece, who was old enough to need some comfort of her own. And she knew it was special. She knew it was from her pawpaw. And so Cece now sleeps with Cotton Candy, although I may have borrowed her a couple of nights in the past week. Dad also left us with no fewer than 6.2 quadrillion pictures of our childhood in photo albums. And for those young ones out there who don't know what a photo album is, it's when you actually uh, got your pictures developed and you put them in books and you could look at them. And we have all of those. And now we also have CDs and DVDs and hard drives and computers and the cloud full of pictures that Dad has taken over the years. I'm pretty sure I was 10 before I realized his face did not look like a camera. He's also left us with hundreds of hours of video. Um, you knew you were at a party with my dad if you showed up and you saw the tripod with the camera set up on it. And you also knew not to go over there and have conversations because everybody got the DVD of the gathering with all the pictures and the video. And you didn't want that conversation on the video. You had to stay away. Dad left us one of the best gifts. When my pawpaw was alive, he married Hazel. And when my pawpaw passed away, we kept Hazel. One of the best gifts that he left us, and my dad 20 years ago brought Connie into our lives. And we're going to keep her. For better or for worse, Connie, you were one of the gifts that Dad left us with, and we love you. And speaking of better or worse, Dad also left his sense of humor in his children. At least 2 or 3 times a week, I have to apologize for a pun or a bad joke. I have to say, sorry, I'm my father's daughter. Or as Dad would say, I'm my daughter's fodder. I can't do the tongue twisters like he did. But there are 2 gifts that he left that I think are the most enduring because I see them, that he's given to us, and I see them in his grandchildren. And I hope to see it in his great-grandchildren and his great-great-grandchildren. And, you know, when you grow up and you live in your household and you think everybody grew up the same way that you did until you get older and realize that no, not everybody had the same life that you did. And 2 of those things, one was music. There's always music in my house. And I am forever grateful that there was music and joy. We did Christmas caroling around our neighborhood with Dad playing the guitar. My dad's bands would practice in our garage. I remember getting dressed up and going to an actual gig and feeling so grown up, sipping on my Shirley Temple while my dad was up there doing his thing, and I knew how cool he was up there. But music has become such a thread in my life. It is the way that I connect. It is the way that I worship. It has brought so many wonderful people into my life, and I never questioned that there would be music in my own home. We have the instruments in our house. We make music together. My children love to sing and play. And I see that in all the grandchildren. Their love and their talent for music will go on. And that was a gift from Dad. But I think the most important gift that Dad left was his love. And again, you don't know growing up that not everybody can count on their dad to just love them. But Dad's love was a fact. And that's not just reserved for his children or his family, it was for everyone he knew. Just like the sky is blue, we need air to live. Dad loved you. It was just a fact. It was uncomplicated, it was undemanding love. He didn't expect anything in return. It was just there. And that, to me, that is the most perfect example of how we are supposed to love. Ephesians 4:2 says, "Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love." And if that doesn't describe my dad, I don't know what does. And so, Dad, we thank you for the gifts that you've left us, and we love you very much.
First off, I want to say thank you to everybody for the prayers, the emails, the texts that you have sent to all of us and the family with your memories of Dad. Sorry. You're all a big part of his life, his story. And we are blessed and thankful that he had each and every one of you. There are so many memories. I started writing them down and I'm like, oh my gosh, everybody's going to be like, finish. It's so long. And East Point, wow, I see so many familiar faces. And that was a big part of my life with my dad, actually, when I got to spend a lot of time with him. I think that's amazing that you guys are here, and he loved all of you dearly. Sorry. I had some of my favorite memories. Early on was when I went to go to the Little Red Schoolhouse, and you knew that if Dad came and picked you up in the East Point Fire Department T-shirt, that you were going to be taking a nap that day with him after you got home because he was exhausted. Those shifts and everything that he did, I looked forward to those. I used to sneak away. As soon as he started snoring, I'd take off. I'm like, yes, the house is mine. He used to take us down to the village store down the street, and I remember Shelly and I'd sit in the car and we'd wait and go, do you think he's going to get us some of those sweet tarts? I don't know, we'll see. And we always got excited when he came out and brought us sweet tarts. And it's just the small things, but it's a memory for me. Back to the napping, which he did often. I'm sure many of you did as well. You knew that when Dad walked into the living room and sat on the recliner and leaned it back, either you were going to hear him snoring very soon, or he was going to be calling one of our names, and he was willing to pay us $1 if you would rub his head or his feet, which is where the feet thing comes from. And, he always said, I have a headache. Just rub my head or my feet. And I love to rub his feet. He enjoyed it. And it was a memory for me with him. I never saw that dollar, though, I've got to say. He was goofy. He was funny. It's so funny how you see things in yourself from your parent and what you do, your antics to your own children. If we were mad or sad or not doing so well, he would always try to make us laugh, right? You'd do that thing in the car at the stoplight, and he didn't care who saw. He would dance, and you would turn your head and you'd be laughing. And I do that to this one over here now, my youngest, Sierra. He was just a fun person to be around. I totally went off this entire book that I wrote. He was dependable. That was one of the best qualities, is that I could call him and it didn't matter how wrong I was, how bad I was, what the situation was. If I called my daddy to come be with me, he was there always. 8 hours drive, didn't matter. Didn't matter if I was wrong. It's what I am sometimes. He was there. He was always there. I remember on those drives and the road trips from Georgia to Florida, Lord, I hope this day is good, singing that with him, and Meet Me in Montana. Do you remember that one? No Stopping Your Heart. But then there were always some silent moments and quiet moments where we didn't have to talk. We didn't think about anything, and we were just there together. I cherish those moments more now than ever. I'm blessed that I got to spend several years when I lived with my father, and he let me grow up. He allowed me to find out who I was. He didn't hold on too tight, and I thank him for that, because I was able to get out there and find out who I was. I needed to know who I was, and he gave me that opportunity by letting go a little bit. I remember when Dad introduced me to Connie, his sunshine. I remember thinking how kind they were to each other, how they looked at each other, and how they looked like giddy little school children in love. And my dad was the happiest I'd ever seen him. I also remember thinking, man, she's got good taste in clothing and in men. Maybe I can learn something from her. I do have her shirt on right now. I did learn something. I learned how to raid her closet for clothes when necessary. And I ended up marrying an amazing man who to me is just like my daddy, who's funny, selfless, easygoing, supportive. And of course, he's willing to put up with me. Love you, honey. Thank you. There's so much. I'm just thankful that my dad was around as much as he was, and that he was always there for us. And I can't, he had a love for all of his grandkids, his children, a love for all of you. Each of you are a part of his story. And thank you for being a support system for him and for us. And we love you all. And I love you, Daddy.
We'll let the girls come up here and say everything, so I don't have to say much. They did all the work. I wanted to read something that Tiffany and Monica had written for Dad. Terry was one of the most gentle-spirited people I've ever met. He had a kindness toward everyone that seemed so very rare in the world. When my mom met him, my sister and I were not really ready to accept an alternate father figure in our lives. We were already adults, and it was different to all of a sudden have 4 step siblings and a stepdad. Over the last 20 plus years, we've learned 3 major things. Having Perry as a stepdad showed us the value of blended families, that genuine love transcends bloodlines, and that my mother was treated like the very sunshine she provides. Perry has always been present through our personal victories and struggles, showed tough love when needed and grace when appropriate. He demonstrated unconditional love in all matters, despite being disappointed in our choices at times. He sought to understand and show support no matter what circumstance. He has always put my mother first in his life. He respected and revered her for the strong woman that she is. They created a beautiful life together over the years, helping to raise all of our children. Perry was my biggest cheerleader and never gave up on me. It took me many years to decide what I wanted to be when I grew up, even in my 30s. And Perry continued to encourage me to find that niche. He didn't make fun of me or think I was lost. He himself was multifaceted and diverse in his talents: firefighter, electrician, IT guru, musician, photographer. He was the safest driver I had ever seen, and it always took forever to get to Texas when he drove, but I always trusted we were safe. He would drive to the end of the earth if it meant he was fulfilling a request or need for one of his own, and that included my sister and me. Once he married Mama, he now had 6 children. Perry helped me build barns for horses, infrared saunas for my chiropractic clinic, and build stability in my life for my son by allowing me to live with him and my mom. In essence, he and my mother helped me raise my son, and for that I will be eternally grateful. He was the best grandfather to Colt. He attended awards at school, basketball games, birthday parties. He helped fill a gap for a father figure. Between Perry and my father, Colt was covered in that regard. I will always be grateful that my mom met Perry. After he got sick, he kept telling me how lucky me and Eddie were to have one another. He would tear up and tell my son how much he loved him every Saturday we came to visit. Watching his decline was brutal, but the time we had with him was precious. We loved the man you were, Perry Bryant, and we will always honor that in our hearts. Mama will always be taken care of until she gets back to you. We love you, Tiff and Monty. I have to say that I'm just amazed at the strong women in this family. It's been a tough couple of weeks, but everybody has stepped up and gotten it done in the midst of trying to process everything. Connie, for you, what you have endured over the last years with Dad's illness, I never felt afraid for him because I knew you were with him, and I knew that he was taken care of, and I knew that he knows you were doing the best job that you can or could, and he didn't make it easy a lot of the times, because he was a Bryant, first and foremost. I guess I should introduce myself. My name is Brandon, and I'm Perry's son, and in fact, of all of his daughters, I'm his favorite son. We're not going to focus on the numbers just because I don't have a brother. It was really difficult to write this, and I think my sisters, I'll echo a lot of what they said, but I could talk for days about Dad, but to whittle it down and talk for a few moments is tough. It's really hard. So many memories and so many things to talk about. So I'll pick a couple of themes here and maybe relate some stories, but that Dad loved us was a given, like Shelley had said. He was the king of dad jokes and puns and quips, and it's a wonder any of us can speak right. Him being a firefighter was a huge part of his life and our life. I remember, some of my fond memories back at 642 Stone Harbor Parkway was when he would come home off his 24-hour shift about the time we were going to school, and he'd come in, and in the wintertime he had his jacket back there, give you a hug and a kiss goodbye, and the jacket smelled a certain way and felt a certain way, and just never forget that, and if he wasn't at work, he'd wake up to the sound of the Gavelia coffee grinder, grinding out coffee, and the smell of coffee. We always had coffee around. One day, Dad and I we're going to cut a few branches at Connie's house. And I picked this story because it's amazing after somebody passes and you think about the small stories, but they're so big. They become so big. We were gonna cut a few branches at his house. And how do you do that? Well, you grab the most rickety ladder you can find, the most dangerous cutting implement, which was like a Grim Reaper style, manual pole saw. And then you convince each other that not only can nothing go wrong, but this is an excellent idea. This is a great idea. So Dad was holding the ladder, and I was cutting a larger branch from down low, and the pole saw got stuck in it. And I told Dad, I said, go pull on the branch so we can get the saw loose and I get this branch off. He of course said, I don't want to let go of the ladder. I said, Dad, it'll be fine. Just go get the branch. He walked over and he was kind of muttering on his way over there, sighing. He's like, this is a bad idea. Get the branch. So he got the branch, and the saw became unstuck. At the same time, the branch broke loose, and then my life slowed down. And I was suspended in air like Wile E. Coyote. And I saw the ladder as it fell away from me. The placard says, not a step. And that's what I was stepping on, of course. And I kind of saw him simultaneously moving towards the ladder. Of course, he wanted to save me. And then gravity kicked in. You could hear opera music in the background, Gravity kicked in, and down I crashed. Landed on the ladder, on my ribs, on my wrist, had the wind knocked out of me. And when I looked up, Dad was standing over me and coaching me about how to breathe again. And as I kind of came into focus, I noticed this lump on his head started to grow at the rate this only for cartoons, started to just grow on his head. Well, so when I had thrown the pole saw, it came down and hit him square in the head. The neighbors over us, he didn't even know what to say. He's standing over us, he couldn't believe what he saw. You were pulling up, right? You came into this scene and didn't know what was happening. We went to the ER, and we were the only ones in the ER that couldn't stop laughing hysterically at the antics. The point of that story is that's where Dad always was, standing over you, coaching you, even when it was your mistake. It was my mistake. I made the mistake of that whole scene was my mistake. He paid for it, but he still, while he was hurt, was standing over me, coaching me, telling me it was going to be all right, telling me to breathe again. And that kind of sums up Dad. He was always like that. He was, the anchor that's under the water. You can't see it, but it keeps the boat steady. Thankfully for our family, we have about 14, 15, 16 other anchors in the water. Very, very strong aunts, very tight aunts and uncles and sisters, and we're so blessed to have that. He paid for a lot of things, figuratively and literally. He paid for a car that I bought. I told him I'd pay for. I didn't pay for it. Mistake that he paid for. When I was little, I used to throw all the switches on his musical equipment. So when he would go turn his organ on or whatever else, everything was blowing out speakers, and I just enjoyed doing that. But he paid for that. We built a deck together. We did a lot together. When I met Adria, Adria was like his counterpart in video. It's so weird that Dad's not standing back there with a camera attached. He and Adria connected with that kind of stuff right off the bat. He accepted her, loved her just like a daughter. And any picture he took, she was right behind him. So many pictures like we'll never want for memories of the family. It's very special to you. He loved Dairy Queen. Next time you go to Dairy Queen, think about Dad. He was always very fair. Like, he wore a lot of different hats because he owned a lot of different hats. But my favorite ones were from my younger years in baseball. He was my coach. Again, that was just a natural thing for him. He coached me. And he always told me, no matter what, he'd tell me, he'd say, good game. He'd also say, win some, you lose some get rained out. He said that a lot. No matter how good or bad the game went, a lot of times we ended up at Dairy Queen. He liked his chocolate-covered cherry blizzards. And I think for baseball, probably he sold you guys about 8 crates worth of Reese's peanut butter cups, didn't he? Or he had them himself. We never knew. But he brought them out to the firehouse for sure. He was always providing the steady comfort. And it was no different the night I called him to tell him I was afraid. So he had gotten some bad news about his illness, and I didn't take it too well. I drove off to a park in the middle of the night, storming, and called him to tell him I was afraid. And even though, he had done an about face and stared directly into what his fate held for him moving forward, he was still studying his comfort to me. To me. I'll never forget that. But I was fortunate to spend the last several days by his side. We had a lot of talks. I got to say a lot of things. I look out at my sisters and the women they've become and the mothers they've become. And I told them, this is in game speak because it's we had baseball. I said, Dad, you put together a heck of a team in me and my sisters. You played hard every season, and you ended your coaching career on one really tough season. But because of his faith, we know that ultimately he still came away with the win. And I told him something that I've never told him before, but he always told me. I whispered in his ear and I said, Dad, good game.
Now it's my turn. Let's see if I can be as good as the adults. So for those of you who do not know me, I'm Jordan McLean. I am Perry's grandson, oldest by blood, the first. And I am here to tell you all some things that the other grandchildren and myself have said about him. So we're going to start off with Taylor, right there. He says that he loved playing Angry Birds with Papa on his laptop computer and watching Papa fly his drone. Taylor really wanted to build that model train layout with his dad, my Uncle Brandon, and wanted to fly Papa up to help with it. Next, we've got Cece. She says that every time I went to visit Papa or he came to visit us, I would get so excited, even though every visit was fairly short. Those visits meant a lot to me. I do wish that I could have more time, but I am grateful for the time that I did have with him. This is from Daniel. He says, "Love you more, Papa." This is from Grayson. He says, "I didn't get to spend as much time with Papa as the other grandkids because we've always lived in a different state, but he has made the time to come and visit us. I'm thankful for that because he was a very special person and he had the best jokes. I will really miss him." Next is from Colt. He says, Kaka was there when I was born, was at all my birthday parties, and many different places and events. He was a great grandfather and person. He had a huge influence on me and how I got into photography. I had recently gotten a camera and he taught me how to take pictures. We went to a nature trail and took pictures of the environment. My favorite thing about him was his kindness to everyone. I will always miss him. This next bit is from Koa. Koa says, my papa was the absolute best. When I went to spend the night with him when I was 7 years old, he let me watch Star Wars The Force Awakens, which was rated PG-13, and most definitely not a mom-approved movie. I love you, Papa. And then this is from Dominic. He says, Papa, I miss you and I hope to see you again. It was very sad when you passed, but I did not want you to suffer. I love you. This is from Sierra and Austin. They said, we always got excited when we went to Papa's. We would get to hang out with our cousins, spend time outside on the swing set, and almost every morning we would have Papa's pancake breakfast. He was the best Papa in the world. Now we want to give a special thanks to David Sloan. Where is he? He's right there in the back. Because his goodbye to Papa was his help with the videos and pictures you saw today before and during the service. He listened to hours of music with his mother, Aunt Shelley, while making the videos you all watched today. Thank you, David. I know Papa was smiling down on you and your mother. And now I'm going to share a specific story I remember from a really long time ago. I don't remember who did what, but a really long time ago, I was spending a night at my mom and papa's house. And I was watching, even today, it's still one of my favorite dinosaur movies. I was so into dinosaurs. And one of them came in, and they turned the TV off because it was really late, way past my bedtime. And then the other came in and turned it back on. And that went on for a little bit until eventually I fell asleep. And even today, I still remember that because it was just so funny. And another thing I remember specifically is he and his camera went everywhere. They were like best buds, except one couldn't really talk. It was just capturing everything. And obviously his pancakes. We can't leave out the pancakes. And now, you know how grandparents like to spoil their grandchildren, right? You know, they have unlimited access to spoiling them. So we're going to spoil all the grandchildren with sugary cookies. So come get cookies.
Okay, I guess if anybody wants to share anything, from his friends, I know got a lot of members there. Yeah.
Mark, if I start rambling, just raise your hand and I'll go sit back down. Brandon, thank you for wearing a tie. I felt out of place there for a little bit. Connie, thank you for marrying Perry. We had a foothold in City Hall, and she helped us all out. Perry was he was a special kind of guy. Sometimes you didn't know if he was joking. Sometimes you didn't know if he was serious. But you just let him be Perry. I'm sure all the firemen over here, they've got stories to tell when they work with Perry. I've got stories. I had the honor of knowing Perry away from the fire department. We had a lot of special interests. We graduated from the same high school, although Perry was a little bit older. But some of the things we had, I know the children may remember this. We lived pretty close together. So one week Perry would drive, next week I would drive. He came over to pick me up one day, and I'm going, oh my God. Anybody seen Wayne's World? You know what an AMC Pacer is? Perry had a pink AMC Pacer, and it had glass all around it. You could not hide in this car. I mean, you could not hide in it. Well, we went to work, got off work, pulled out of the station. What does Perry do? He puts on this monster mask and drives all the way home down I-20, 285, and I'm sitting over there, and people are looking, and Perry's just having a blast. But it's just little things like that. At the fire station, we'd come back from a call. I don't care if it was 9 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning. Perry did two things. He'd put on a pot of coffee, and he'd comb his hair. He combed his hair more than anybody I ever seen. And his Uncle Billy. Uncle Billy did the same thing. And but I never heard Perry say anything bad about anyone. I never heard anybody say anything bad about Perry. He was easygoing. I will say I saw him get frustrated a couple of times. Perry could do just about anything. Let me backtrack a little bit. At the fire station, we had a volleyball thing set up outside. We played volleyball. Perry could not play volleyball. Just couldn't do it. But we'd go inside, and Perry started playing his guitar, and I took an interest in it. Perry, I'd love to learn how to play the guitar. And he tried to show me. Well, that didn't go anywhere. And then he started, he's always been into ham radios forever. Perry, I'd like to do that. That's just cool, Well, he tried to teach me Morse code. That didn't last but about a week. So that was over. And to this day, I can still remember Perry's ham radio call numbers, KF4NN. But that saved us one day. We broke down on the side of I-20. And this was before cell phones. Well, Perry had his little mobile radio thing, calls his brother-in-law up. 15 minutes later, he picks us up and gets us home. But the pink Pacer, that was that. I wish I had a picture of that car. Do y'all remember that? No, was it a Datsun? I thought it was an AMC Pacer. I thought that's the one he had painted pink. See, I'm forgetting. Mark, you ready to raise your hand yet? I introduced Perry to a friend of mine, which also went to the same high school as Perry, and they became friends. They had the same mutual interest, guitars, and Steve's computer went out. I didn't know how to fix it, so introduced him to Perry. Sure, Perry went over there. I called Steve the next day. Steve, how'd it go? Leave me alone. I'm going back to bed. Perry didn't leave till 3 o'clock. All Perry needed was a cup of coffee, and he'd stick with something. But the two times that I did see him get frustrated, not mad or angry, one, when my computer messed up and he had that thing in parts. It was just scattered everywhere. But he had his coffee and he got it fixed. The other time, I was helping him build his studio down at his house. Y'all remember the studio, don't you? y'all had this little dog, and I think his name was Chico. Am I right? Little Chihuahua looking dog. Anyhow, this little dog would bark like crazy, and it didn't like me. It'd come in there, and we got a Perry turned around. He had a hammer in his hand. He didn't say anything, and Chico just tucked his tail and ran out. But Perry loved his family. He never hesitated to talk about his family. The last several times I talked to him, he would start naming off everybody. I said, "Slow down, Perry. I'm losing you here because it's such a big family." He loved his friends. He loved his fire department. He loved his music. Everything was music to him. And I think it was Pace that said his favorite sayings was, "Don't worry about it. It's going to be okay." That's what he always said. I mean, how can you go through life and not get upset? But he did. I mean, and I'm sure y'all have seen him upset, but I never saw that side of him. We went to I can't remember if it was an anniversary party for his parents or anyhow. Perry was playing guitar. His brother-in-law was playing guitar. The whole family was there. His sisters were singing. They were belting out some Tammy Wynette song. But the whole family, Perry, he could do just about anything but play volleyball. But we had a good time. Like I said, Perry loved his family. He loved his friends. And he loved his God. And every time I talked to him, he wanted to make sure that I was right with the Lord before, something happened. And I assured him that I was. And back a couple of years ago when I was very sick, he put me on the prayer list. And, that was really good. But, I think about Perry a lot. But the last time I talked to him, he was going to call me when they were going to do the memorial service for Uncle Billy. See, I called him Uncle Billy, even though, but everybody called him Uncle Billy. But those are just some memories that I have of Perry that's probably going to last me a lifetime. And I just wanted to share those with everyone here. Okay.
So, whenever I went to a house that Perry was at, the first love I ever got was from him. It was a kiss on the forehead. And he is just an awesome cousin. And I call him Uncle Perry just because he's way older than me. But he just was such a good cousin. And yeah, so he was very sweet.
started talking to him. In fact, I can bring out that he played with well over a year and a half years or something. The last few years at church, he wanted to come to church. Tommy one of them was sick or something. That drive hour and a half, one way hour and a half, another. And every keyboard and the guitar, and everyone misses it there. I mean, you say that for my church. Everyone misses it. I have to call her. Share her spring. Spring, boy back there. He'll let you know the spring with the hat right there. He got the hat, so celebration there. That's what you know what my hat because all I wear it anyway. But I the reason I didn't take it off was that I was very wouldn't celebrate. It wasn't a wonderful thing. So if you could all just stand, we just go to the Lord in prayer. We wanted to get that experience like this.
Tell me, what does it look like in heaven? Is it peaceful? Is it free, like they say? Does the sun shine bright forever? Have your fears and your pain gone away? 'Cause here on earth it feels like everything good is missing since you left. And here on earth everything's different. There's an emptiness. Oh, I know you're dancing in the sky. I know you're singing in the angels' choir. I know the angels know what they have. I'll bet it's so nice up in heaven since you arrived. So tell me, what do you do up in heaven? Are your days filled with love and light? Is there music? Is there art in a mansion? Tell me, are you happy? Are you more alive? 'Cause here on earth it feels like everything good is missing since you left. And here on earth everything's different. There's an emptiness. Oh, I know you're dancing in the sky. I know you're singing in the angels' choir. I know the angels know what they have. I'll bet it's so nice up in heaven since you arrived. I know you're dancing in the sky. I know you're singing in the angels' choir. I know the angels know what they have. I'll bet it's so nice up in heaven since you arrived. Since you arrived.
Father, we thank you for your love and for your mercy. Father, we thank you for this family, Lord God, that you have brought together friends of Lord God, that you took place in there. Thank you for the lives that you have put. Oh, Father, we thank you for touching his life, oh Lord God, that he could show that love for Jesus through him, Lord. And Father, we ask in Jesus' name, touch every soul that is here, Father, that they'll take the example that Mary has said of love, of Father, and if you will really spread it out, Father, wherever they go, whatever place they're at, Father, they'll get something about Jesus, Father, and somewhere, Father, in their minds they know that this is what Mary was like, Lord. Father, in the name of Jesus, we give you glory, we give you honor, just because of, Father, we are your children, Lord. Father, that we ask in the name of Jesus, bless every soul that is here, families and friends and all, Father. We ask you that you bless us, Lord. Father, and give us strength to go home, Father. Help us through these hard times, Lord God, that we'll be going through, Father, when we begin to think, oh, Father, that we realize that you can far better place, Father, than here, Lord. And Father, no suffering, no sorrow, pain ever, Lord, anymore, Father. Oh God, but we can walk in this truth. Oh Father, I have not been seen or told, Father, the things that you prepared for those who love you, Father, who love you, and Father, we know that we love you. In the name of Jesus, we give you praise, Father.
Thank you all very much for coming. Please remember Dad in your way.